Any questions, but I can't.
We're going to call today's SBCCOG Board of Directors meeting to order for Thursday, January 25th, 2024 for 6 p.m. Verification of a quorum.
Yes, we have a quorum, and we're going to need 14 people. I think we need about eight votes on any item.
Confirmation of the posting of the agenda.
Yes, posted.
And are there any announcements of any changes to the agenda?
Yes. First announcement is that if you notice the agenda, it's got a new front and bottom, and we've been putting out on social media a word of the month, a word of the week. Thought we put it on the agenda because if you don't do social media, you wouldn't see it. We changed it to word of the month, and we'd love to get your reaction if you love it. But we thought that would be a fun thing to put on the agenda so you can see some of the words we're dealing with. Also, the Measure R annual program update is coming back in February, so it's being tabled this evening. And then the most important thing, Natalie, is it's Cedric's birthday.
Oh boy.
Hey. Happy birthday.
We are going to sing, aren't we?
She's special.
Oh, put on paper.
Well, I missed the last one.
Let's say. Okay.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cedric. Happy birthday to you.
Actually blushing.
So it's very interesting that you were silent this morning in our meeting when we sang happy birthday to the sheriff's captain and bothers him.
No, I don't. That was a gun in the room, so I'll be quiet. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
For those for the announcement for comments from the public, I know that I have an extensive list, and I think everybody is here to talk about the sea line.
Yes.
So I want to put everyone under the sea line when we get to that item. Is there anyone else here that want to talk about other than the sea line? Okay.
And Mr. Chair.
Oh, I think make sure anybody on Zoom, anybody else want to talk about anything other than sea line on Zoom? Other than sea line. Okay.
I wanted to make one announcement just to make sure you notice that David has been sending you public comments that have been coming in through the month. And so I think you just got something today or yesterday on those public comments as well.
So we're at our consent calendar.
Move to approve. Second.
They're properly moved to second, and we do have one of our board of directors that's online, and so because of that, Diane Falk, I think it is. We have to now, where's Diane? We have to now do our votes.
Not on yet.
She's not
on yet?
We don't have to do it yet.
Okay. David, you know what to do.
Perfect. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we're under presentations. Now we're under sea line discussion and recommendation.
Right. You want a brief?
Yeah, a brief staff report.
Brief staff report. On page 41 of the agenda this evening is a synopsis, a discussion of the sea line with some statistics that we also got from the Metro Board report. And we wanted to make sure that this came to the board finally. There was a request that the board consider it. And we wanted to let you know that our goal with the COG is to work collaboratively. So the city managers and the officers have recommended not taking an alignment position, but supporting the recommendation that a project be built in the South Bay. Mark Durking is here to answer any questions. If there's any questions.
So Jackie, you want to repeat that last part? I don't think people down here heard that.
That Mark Durking is here?
No, before that.
Yes, the recommendation is that and this is a staff recommendation, but it also comes from the city managers and officers, that the board of directors express its support for the rail project, not select an alignment preference.
Yeah, no, you said, but I thought.
Well, you can say, because we're gonna say. But the consensus.
It's okay, it's fine. Now we're gonna go through our public comments on the Sea Line, and up first is our newest director, Neil, from Redondo Beach.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I brought together a little PowerPoint to give some color and some pictures to what we're talking about. So, real quick, that's actually the rest of the second slide. Go back one slide. Oh, that is the first slide. That's the first slide. All right. So right now, kind of the way we see it here at Redondo's, we're evaluating the current situation, which is really just between the concrete walls and the paperwork that we're seeing in black and white. And I think the past informs the present. If we look at the past, see what's happened in the South Bay, overall in other cities, we'll be able to make a better decision moving forward, and it's going to impact us for the next 100+ years. So go to the next slide, please. There are no do-overs with this particular project. And I think it's really important we do take a position on Hawthorne Boulevard, because at the end of the day, other countries, other areas have done it right. And when they do it correctly, there's huge success. For instance, Paris started their subway system in 1910. Germany, after World War II, started their subway system. They didn't have any resources. New York and the subway system there. Those decisions, while expensive, you can see on the right-hand side, are still being used today, being done correctly. They didn't go cheap. They didn't do it wrong. They did it right. They thought about it over the long term. Next slide, please. So many of you guys might not actually know, but Hawthorne Boulevard actually already has portions of the sea line. The pointer doesn't show up there. In yellow there, though, on the left-hand side, then on the left picture, that's actually the Hawthorne El Nido segment. That's actually in the corner of Hawthorne Boulevard and Redondo Beach Boulevard, then turning north through Lawndale and Hawthorne. And it was brought through by the Pacific Red Car. And just so everyone knows we're all on the same page, Metro was actually originally the Metropolitan Transit Authority, or the MTA. And MTA actually, one of the ways it got started was by buying all of the red car lines. So there's great history here in what we're doing. Next slide, please.
It could also, affect, damages and raise them. How soon?
What are agglomerations? I went through and did a lot of research on things, and agglomeration is basically when you look at zoning and economics and putting them together.
They will be instructed.
This graph on the bottom bar is kilometers from the streetcar line, and going up is density. So you can see on the two graphs here, the closer you are to a streetcar line, the higher the density and the more people per unit of housing. And you might think, well, that was back then. That was, part of they didn't have mobile transportation. But actually, this is over a period that they're actually looking at today in 2003. If you go to the next slide, please, you'll see that the red car line, the old red car lines, you'll see that there are significant amount of business, commercial construction, and residential density development along the red car lines. In fact, 25% more units are being built along the old red car lines than the non-red car line areas. And this is scientifically proven by the Zocalo group, a very impressive group. Next line, please. So what I did is look at our housing elements real quick. Redondo Beach and Lawndale for Hawthorne Boulevard. And we all know what the South Bay Galleria, South Bay Schultz District, 300 units plus. Lawndale, they've also done their housing element. And what Metro is looking at, what we should be looking at, residential development, workforce development, ridership, and the future of the South Bay as a whole. We are a tax donor. Let's get that money back. Let's make sure this investment is done right. Next slide. So you'll see here in Redondo Beach, the green line goes right by very low income, mixed income, highly affordable jobs, right by the South Bay Galleria. We put a significant amount of zoning and density, both commercial, but primarily residential, in the tech district on the far top left-hand side and by the South Bay Galleria. You look at the two yellow spots, that's where the two stations are. People will be able to get in and on and off the subway stations correctly, quicker. Next slide, please.
Please thought you had your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be real quick. Here's a Lawndale housing element. Their housing element has specifically identified high value areas, significant amount of residential development on Hawthorne Boulevard. Next slide. This is the diversity index in Lawndale. You'll see it in Hawthorne Boulevard, high diversity index. Next slide. Current tracks, you'll see this. Current tracks are being moved over. What happens, as you've all seen, with the tracks, rail cars falling over into people's backyards. Next slide. This is the rail to walk bike paths. This is something Supervisor Holly Mitchell started 30 years ago over Crenshaw and Long Beach stations. Next slide. This is happening in Orange County, converting old rail lines to walkable green paths moving forward. Next slide. So if we look at this holistically moving forward, when we do public infrastructure improvements, we have private sector improvements and investments following us. And we want residential growth, South Bay growth, workforce housing, less impacts to traffic, healthy lifestyles. And that all affords us if we put our vote for the C line and get the C line extension along Hawthorne Boulevard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Ellery Smith, so that we know that the time is for 3 minutes. Because if not, we will be here till 10 o'clock tonight. So we don't plan on being here that late this evening. But Ellery Smith?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes too long.
No? Going once, going twice?
Say your name.
Ellery Smith. Next is Daniel Walker. Dan, coming. Coming. No Daniel Walker. Then Matthew Lawrence.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Lawrence.
Where do you want him to stand?
Where would you like me?
Probably from right where you are. That's easier.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Lawrence. I'm a resident of Torrance, but I have family all over the South Bay. I'm sure most people here are in a similar situation. The South Bay is connected in a wide variety of ways. I work as a civil engineer as my day job and show up to meetings like this for fun. Happy birthday to the chair. And with that, I just want to say that I hope that the COG today decides to stay alignment neutral. I'm in favor of the C line going down the right of way, but I understand that every city here has a different opinion on what's best for the constituents. Everyone has different opinions on, whether this project can happen, and that's all right. I understand that we might not come to a consensus tonight, but I want the COG to support this project overall. Even if we have differences, I think we know the project have benefits in the long run. And so I'm hoping that the COG will just stay alignment neutral. They'll let the cities advocate for what they can to Metro, what alignment works best for Redondo might not work best for Torrance. And I think cities should be able to express that without having to be put into a single grouping of the South Bay wants this or that. We have a wide diversity of residents here, and I want everyone's opinions to be represented. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Osborne.
I've done so many 1 minute speeches. I know that I will have no trouble making it a 3 minute one. And I'm going to sort of combine a couple that I did for the Metro. So I got involved in this 4 years ago. I live in Redondo. I do not live on the road, but I live very close to the road. So I walked it. And the first thing I saw was that the row is, Metro had configured it would not fit. And the second thing I saw was the row is really beautiful. Okay. It is a shame to put something on this property. So then I listened to a lot of meetings and I discovered there's something about, there's an area of disadvantage, and I got this tool that, looked at it by census tract. And it, I discovered that the row goes right through a disadvantaged census tract in Lawndale, okay? Metro Board has said they're not gonna do that anymore, okay? So I looked at what the areas were for disadvantaged, and it turns out they've got about 7. You don't have to be able to read this, just to know that if it's dark blue, it meets the criteria of being disadvantaged. And so, because I keep flipping, one of the areas is housing. This is just to give you an example. So it meets 2 of the criterias. It's under investment, means it's historically they've been denied mortgages and stuff in that area. And also it's 91st, and being above 90 is bad in terms of, you know, the amount of concrete. This one doesn't do it by parks, it does it by just plain open space. So it's got 2 bad areas and 2 bad areas. I didn't put all the areas, it's okay, combined with lower than average or income by the census tract means it's a disadvantage. Now that's just for expansion for one of these blue areas. This is for, there are actually 4 blue areas where I could go through this. So it's disadvantaged. And here it's, I think, is really bad with climate change, which was probably not on the agenda back in 2018. But it's the past year, 2023 was the highest temperature on record. And the last 10 years have been the highest 10 years. It's only going to get worse. Why would you take away a green space? We need our green spaces in the city. How many seconds do I have left? 34. I don't think I need to say anymore. I'm just saying, well, now I'm going to use the 34. I want to know how many people have seen this part of the road in this room. Yes, he did. Okay, but so that means you other people who are voting have not seen this? You know, PV's got wonderful trails. Lawndale's got 1, okay?
1.
All right, is that time?
Train track.
Second. Okay, you guys do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another flop.
Pauline Villegas.
Thank you.
Good evening. Pauline Villegas, right-of-way stakeholder and advocate for the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment for the Metro C line. To those of you who came on the community walk in December with Holly Mitchell, thank you. My only disappointment from that walk was that the participants did not get to see the road from the vantage point of the west side, as Holly was saying. From Manhattan Beach Boulevard through 190th Street, you get a clear view of the green space with hundreds of beautiful mature trees surrounded by homes. The right-of-way alignment comes with a multitude of problems. Some of these, noise and vibration, serious safety concerns, cutting through a disadvantaged residential community, and eliminating one of the area's only green spaces. The Hawthorne Boulevard alignment, on the other hand, puts the C line raised along Hawthorne Boulevard in the commercial corridor where it's likely to increase ridership and revenue for the area. It makes the most sense. It preserves one of the few remaining green spaces and overall quality of life for the thousands of residents. It is the locally preferred option for the cities of Lawndale, Redondo Beach, and their residents. So I urge you to unite with us in supporting the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment. It's the best option for the future of the South Bay. Thank you.
Thank you. Isabel Suarez.
Was that Schwartz or Schwartz?
Sorry, Schwartz.
Oh, hello. I'm speaking in support of the completion of the Sea Line Extension project, and this is in the South Bay. I'm a resident of historic Old Torrance, less than 2 miles from the Torrance Transit Center, the eventual terminus of the Metro extension. I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, then moved to Santa Monica, then to Long Beach before making the South Bay my home. One of the most difficult parts of moving to the South Bay was losing access to easy, high-speed rail. With Metro, I could get anywhere in LA County without needing a car. Doctor's visits in South LA, meeting up with friends in downtown Los Angeles, visiting family in Santa Monica, and then getting back to school in Long Beach. I had freedom and could connect to most places via reliable, high-speed rail. I actually only learned how to drive when I moved away from Long Beach, and my commute was not possible via train. When talking to Torrance residents, I've noticed that most people aren't speaking in favor of the right-of-way or the Hawthorne option even, because they just view this project as a given. The Sea Line extension in Torrance will be an amazing resource, and I can't wait to finally have my friends and family who don't drive come visit me at home. Right now, they have to take hours of buses, and it's just not feasible. They have to wait for friends and family to be able to carpool with them and drive them. So I don't get to see my sister very often. I'd love for her to be able to visit me in Torrance. She's right by a metro station. It'd be great. So I just want to make sure this project happens. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ray Holler.
I'm Ray Holler, Lawndale homeowner and retired aerospace engineer. With the greatest sincerity, it's my privilege to speak in front of all of you. I prefer and hope you will support the Hawthorne Boulevard option and for the following reasons. Now, there's a South Bay COG staff a memo, and a lot of it is from the August 14th memo from the Metro staff, the Metro Board of Directors. So there's a lot of overlap there. I've addressed a lot of those issues. And I'm going to talk about just two things really: cost effectiveness and Caltrans. Kind of an alliteration there. Okay. So cost effectiveness is the only project objective that relates to cost. The only one. And cost effectiveness has previously been defined by Metro as cost per rider. So we're going to talk about cost and ridership. And in the FOG memo, it talks about ridership, and it gives two numbers. And here are the numbers. The problem is it doesn't say which project belongs to which number. Well, the big number belongs to for ridership belongs to the Hawthorne Boulevard, and the small one belongs to the road, any road. And if you divide them, you get a 35% advantage of the Hawthorne Boulevard over the row. So that's a big advantage of ridership. Now let's talk about cost. The thing is, the number, and that's the next paragraph in the memo. And there are four options there. And the first one is the plain old row, and Metro has scored that as being having a significant and unmitigatable noise impact, which Hawthorne Boulevard does not have. And it also interferes with a vital emergency vehicle path on 182nd Street. And so for those reasons, I hope that you will reject them. And Metro's cure for that is to trench over the two places along the row. And that cost, they have an incremental cost for that they showed in the August 14th memo. Now for Hawthorne Boulevard, what I did was I was trying to get details about the cost information background from all these options. And I couldn't get that. I was denied that. And so I went inside the DEIR and I found construction cost information on all the options. And when I compared them, then the physical construction cost of the Hawthorne Boulevard and the hybrid row is about the same. That's physical construction. So the only difference there is how much more do you need for a Caltrans impact? I'll get to that in a minute. And inflation. And when you end up, doing all that work, you end up with Hawthorne Boulevard cost at $2.55 billion. Hybrid row is $2.23 billion. And if you take the division, if you divide row into Hawthorne Boulevard, you get a 14% increase in cost. So for 14% increase in cost for Hawthorne Boulevard, you get 35% more ridership. That's better cost per rider, lower cost per rider, and a better project. So let's go on to the Caltrans part, because in the memo, there are some pieces there from the like I said, the August 14th memo, where it says, it talks about.
Your time is up. Complete your thought, please.
Okay, Caltrans. All projects need Caltrans encroachment permits, and Caltrans never said NEPA was required. It may be, but not because Caltrans said that. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Pam Combo.
Hi, Pam Cumbar. I live in Torrance, and I don't live near the project, but I have friends who do, who live on the project. I've been in their backyards. I did the walk with Holly Mitchell. But it affects all of us in nearby communities in one way or another. economically, in our homes, our values, infrastructure. And I am advocating for Hawthorne Boulevard only because there's going to be a choice here, whether it's today or whether it's 20 years down the road. Eventually, mass transit will come. But for so many reasons, the experts here, people who know a little bit more in details than I do, it's pretty obvious that Hawthorne is the option. I mean, bottom line, if you're concerned about the community and the people who live here, you are saving 1,000 homes from an impact on Row by putting it down Hawthorne Boulevard. And on the note of the green space, we are starving for green space. And as things heat up, the green space helps cool things down. Hermosa, Manhattan both took their area of their rails right-of-ways and turned them into green belts. And they're beautiful and they're used by the community all day long. Redondo failed to put up a storage unit, but you know, Redondo's working on other things and good decisions in other areas. And that area might be affected eventually with some of the things coming up. So I leave you with the thought, besides helping 1,000 families save their properties, you're saving them from emotional and physical injury. It's obvious the emotional injury, hearing a train every 12 minutes for 14 hours a day or more. And number two, it's already proven that the soils along that whole row is unstable. One house is still in probably, I don't know that it's actually been mediated or completed the fix for, they had a sinkhole on the property. They couldn't even access their property from that side of the house. So I leave you with that. I'm a little nervous tonight because I didn't know what to say, but it's pretty, it makes sense. Hawthorne has the history of the Red Line. I mean, the infrastructure is there, the business is there. You're saving 1,000 families from injury.
Hi, Brittany Mitchell, Redondo Beach, right-of-way stakeholder, and Gardena Mohican alum. Metro's multimodal objectives policy unanimously board approved June of 2022 seeks to maximize benefits based on needs rather than mitigating harms after a general strategy is determined. Maximizing benefits in this case happens on Hawthorne Boulevard. The equity platform from that policy promises to incorporate our voices for a more holistic community-based approach. The idea of shortchanging us with what's perceived as the cheap, low-budget option is insulting, and it's been determined that a cost difference in alignment, if any, would be negligible. It would disembark passengers behind the cemetery in between the Target loading dock and homeless shelter. The walkway that brings riders just steps from my home is not the most ideal for neighborhood safety concerns. A more visibly public train station is better for everyone. This needs very mindful consideration on so many levels. In the pursuit of funding for the C line, it would only make sense to go for the full amount that would cover any alignment, and our District 2 Supervisor Board Director has not only seen that, but has started the footwork to try to ensure this project gets funded for the correct strategic plan for the good of the entire county. And I'm glad the Greenbelt has been mentioned, because that's another thing we've been talking about. We bought our house, I've mentioned before, the 2002 rail studies, BNSF here discussing the COG, the possibility of turning that into a Greenbelt.
That's right.
We'll put a bike path there, next year housing elements, and having a station on Hawthorne Boulevard. That's a little dream of the future. Draft EIR was released exactly 1 year ago, and this topic has been dodged all of this time. We wish you had been more thoughtful about it, done a deep dive to fact check us,
research other metro lines and retail corridors to compare costs and benefit, engaged with impacted residential communities on other lines for a reality check on how they really feel, straight from them. That didn't happen, so don't kid yourself with dismissive talking points. We wanted you to examine all variables in the big picture and how this major infrastructure project would affect our cozy corner of LA County. That said, if you want this metro extension to the South Bay, get on board with Hawthorne. If you don't, then vote no bills. Thank you.
Daniel Walker.
Hi, I'm Daniel Walker. I'm from a group we called the Friends of the Green Line. We've actually presented it about 20 years ago. We were involved with this corridor when it was, the Harbor Subdivision project. We've been strong advocates for improved transportation in the South Bay region for, for a couple of decades. I recognize some of the folks here. So we're for making this project move forward. We're not taking a strong opinion about the route, but we'd like to pick the project that's most likely to move forward. And we know funding is always a constraint. Both routes probably will have about the same ridership, whether you're on one side of the mall or the other. I think going right to the Redondo Beach Transportation Center is a good option. You're going to get more ridership through all the buses that interconnect with the rail if we stay on the right of way. But I understand there's concerns. These people are all making good points. But somehow Metro's managed to build rail along a lot of right-of-ways. The Blue Line through Long Beach, going up to LA, that's an existing rail line. We're advocates for the Expo line going through West LA and Santa Monica. That was on an existing rail line. My mom is in South Pasadena, where they were, adamantly against that project at first, but now everyone loves it. Even the West Santa Ana branch has been recently approved. That's along an existing rail corridor. San Gabriel Valley is doing it. So I understand it's got to be done right. These folks have legitimate concerns. We've got to make it a beautiful project. But I'm concerned if we go with a route that's more expensive and it takes a lot longer, we may never get it done. So we're for making the project go forward. I suggest you go with what the agenda says to be route neutral in your support. If somehow millions of dollars show up and we can build it, down Hawthorne and down the 405 freeway, I'm not against that route. I just think it's going to be expensive, and it might not happen for years because of that. And I think we can do it either way, either method, just to get the project done and get it done fast, so we can all use it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. With time permitting, and I want to give everybody the opportunity to speak, and I think between the Zoom and what's left in the cards in my hand, we have close to another 20 people that want to speak, which would take us well into, I said we're not going to be here till 10 o'clock at night. So at this point in time, based upon the chair's prerogative, I'm going to reduce your time. It's still be able to speak, but it won't be 3 minutes. It'll be 2 minutes so we can get everybody here all night long. And I know that it's a long process. I'm sympathetic to everyone's concerns regarding this item, but I want to make sure that everyone gets heard and that we don't run out of time for the meeting and that we end up without a quorum and everyone starts leaving and that nobody's here to hear what you have to say. With that being said, Kevin Mitchell.
Good evening, Kevin Mitchell, Redondo Beach. So we bought our house in 2007. We're right against the road. Our fence collapsed and we replaced it with a cinder block wall. Then I began to understand the road a little bit. Our property has a 3-foot easement for petroleum pipelines. When digging, I uncovered a 20-inch vertical pipe that rides in our backyard. We had multiple agents from the pipeline companies come out and inspect our digging and building. I realized the level of danger that was present. That's also when I realized that that was a liquid petroleum tanker that was going by twice a day. When I first began to dig into the DEIR, what jumped out at me was a dismissive tone of the hazardous materials section. All questions about transport use, disposal, foreseeable upset, accident conditions were all deemed to be less than significant. I can't dig a trench for a block wall without talking to 8 different stakeholders, but installing a huge infrastructure project with giant earth movers, trenching, bulldozing, cement trucks over high pressure petroleum lines, all the while maintaining liquid petroleum freight car line at the back wall of hundreds of properties is less than significant. Last year in East Palestine, Ohio, a tanker train derailed. All residents there, house residents, it was less than significant. The South Bay cannot afford this type of negligence. This project is not about money. This body needs to step forward and assert the need for thoughtful infrastructure and connect the South Bay. This board should be working toward providing a vision that serves the future and not one that threatens it.
Thank you. On the Zoom, we have Alan Nathan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'd like to voice my support for, well, my name is Alan. I live in San Pedro, so I frequent the South Bay a lot. And I'd like to restate my point of either staying neutral or choosing the row. I understand there are a lot of viewpoints here. We heard them all, and they have all their merits. Obviously, you know, the row has benefits. It's cheaper to build. It's faster because of the lack. I'll get to that later. And it's going to be better connected to the Redondo Beach Transit Center, which might just seem like a bus station, but it has very vital connections. And from what I understand, it might be good for commerce. There's some stores there, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, the better connection. And if a metro chooses the row, they will upgrade the Harbor subdivision for you know, better tracks and to keep stuff safe. And reason why I am personally against Hawthorne is because it's effectively a 6-lane freeway. Caltrans wants to keep all lanes, even if the train is built there. And it's actually designated as a state route with the SR number on it. I forgot what that is. And frankly, having a train station in the middle of a freeway is not that great. I mean, look at the C line, look at parts of the A line. It's very loud. It's not fun. And the worst case scenario with this one is that people actually have to cross the street. If you've been to Hawthorne Boulevard, it's basically a freeway. That's what it is. And I've heard some points about having a disadvantaged community, like the trains going through disadvantaged community and it going over green space and stuff. Frankly, a train is what a disadvantaged community, or rather better public transit is what a disadvantaged community would really need. A train's not like a freeway that will plow through neighborhoods and cut them off and destroy them. A train is the tracks are very thin, you can cross them easily, and it offers cheap or almost free public transit.
Your time is up. Please complete your thought.
Sorry. Basically, I urge the South Bay Board of Directors to affirm its a no stance, a neutral stance for the betterment of all of us, and support any rail line that goes to the area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brianna Egan.
Hello, good evening, South Bay SBCCOG board members. I'm a Redondo Beach resident, and my name is Brianna Egan. I'm calling in to speak in support of the Sea Line extension to Torrance and to reiterate our support letter from South Bay Forward, signed by residents of cities throughout the South Bay. As we know, the Sea Line extension project is the largest transportation investment to the South Bay in decades, and Metro has been planning this for longer than I've been alive. So it's time to get this built so that current and future residents of the South Bay can enjoy the mobility benefits. South Bay Forward is in strong support of the Sea Line extension to Torrance. We are also in support of both the right-of-way elevated at-grade and the right-of-way hybrid alignments. These options provide the best utilization of taxpayer funds with the earliest opening dates and the lowest estimated costs, as well as a direct rail connection to the Redondo Beach Transit Center for optimal bus and bike network connectivity, new multi-use recreational paths, and safety modernizations to the existing freight corridor with new bridges, track work, pedestrian gates, and other engineering upgrades for freight and light rail. I want to remind folks that there are similar configurations of light rail and heavy rail near homes and schools that exist along the A line in South Pasadena, South LA, and the San Gabriel Valley, and the Expo line in West LA. My sister teaches at a high school in Duarte, which is adjacent to a light rail station, and about 30% of her students take the train to school. So co-locating the light rail station to the Redondo Beach Transit Center will significantly expand regional mobility to the housing at the South Bay Social District and to the bus lines that serve Inglewood, El Camino College, Gardena, Compton, Carson, and the beach cities. The Hawthorne elevated alignment faces steep challenges, including the $1 billion extra cost to taxpayers and lengthy Caltrans and NEPA approvals, as well as a station design that would force transit riders to walk across 4 lanes of dangerous and loud traffic. As well, if Hawthorne is selected.
Your time is up. Please complete your thought.
Okay, so our bottom line is that we urge the South Bay cities to support the Sea Line extension and to commit to working with LA Metro for the benefit of the South Bay region, no matter the route chosen. Thank you for your support of enhanced public transit to the South Bay.
Thank you. John Schreiber.
Hi, John Schreiber. I'm a Lawndale homeowner along the row. Yeah, I support the Hawthorne Boulevard option. I'm not gonna go down the litany of reasons why, because everybody here has said it better than me, but I just want to address the people that like to say, oh, this is done in other parts of the city and the county where there's heavy rail, light rail together. So I took people up on that. I actually went out to Azusa and Duarte and Monrovia, and I talked to people that have similar situations as us, where their houses back up to a freight line and they've just added the Gold Line extension along it. And every person I talk to along there says it's been absolute hell living there next to the construction for years. I talked to one guy whose house is actually very similar to Nikki's house in Redondo. He backs up to the freight line. They're adding the 2 light rail tracks next to it. He said it's been a living nightmare living next to the construction for the last, I don't know how many years it's been, 4 or 5 years. So every morning, 7 a.m., there's workers outside his window. He has a pool in his backyard that's constantly filled up with dust from the construction. And the line hasn't even opened yet, so he couldn't even speak to the noise and vibration or anything that's affected by the light rail. But you have to keep in mind that if you choose the row, you're putting homeowners through years of misery from the construction process alone. And I want to point out, too, that yes, there will be improvements to the freight track, which is not going away on the row, but I don't see how you can call moving a freight track closer to homes as an improvement. That is not an improvement. That is a danger, and you're making our neighborhood worse if you choose the row. So I think it's encouraging everybody here. Nobody here is saying don't build this, but I think it's very clear that the locally preferred option in the South Bay is Hawthorne Boulevard. And I encourage you guys to affirm your support of that and back the many, many residents that have been coming to these meetings for months and years, trying to get you guys to take a stance on this. So please do it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Enfield, Kurt.
Nice. All right. Kirk Canfield. I live in Long Beach. I'm not a resident, I think, of the South Bay, but I'm not really sure. My whole stance is that I want this train to get to Long Beach. And if it gets to Long Beach, that would be awesome. So I want whatever is going to get that train to Long Beach sooner. And to my mind, that means whatever's going to be most achievable from a financial perspective. Metro already owns the right of way. They don't have to talk to Caltrans and beg them to like be nice. And so, you know, I want that train and I want to be able to ride it so I can get to the airport. And, you know, I mean, Long Beach Airport is great, but, you know, it doesn't get me outside of, you know, like 5 places. So, you know, I want the train to get to Long Beach and I want to get there as quickly as possible. And I just want to remind, you know, you guys, I'm in the region, you know, I'm nearby. So I hope that you guys decide on a alignment that will, you know, help expedite this project. Because I mean, there's going to be 9 million more ways for this project to go even slower. So like, if we can just cut out one of them, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Lowenstein.
Good evening, board members. My name is Todd Lowenstein. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Redondo Beach, and I'm also a council member. It's an honor to speak with you tonight. By now, you probably know that the Redondo Beach Council is in unanimous support of the Hawthorne option. We believe it is the best chance for ridership, feeding a revamped South Bay Galleria and the South Bay Social District. But my main concerns are safety and also disruption to peaceful neighborhoods by trains passing by 200 to 300 times a day from 4 a.m. to midnight. With the realignment of the freight tracks, what's now 30 to 50 feet from houses will be 12 to 25 feet. And you may be aware that there was a significant derailment of a Norfolk Southern freight train in East Palestine, Ohio, nearly 1 year ago on February 3rd. Several of the rail cars burned for days, releasing hydrogen chloride and phosgene into the air. Imagine the Norfolk Southern accident happening in our backyards, only 12 to 25 feet from houses. We had a derailment in El Segundo only back in 2017, so it wasn't very long ago. There are 486 homes in Redondo Beach and 600 in Lawndale along the tracks, and another 1,624 within 350 feet of the row. While I understand the opposition to a Hawthorne option is based on an impact car dealership, this can be routed around. Safety must be the #1 concern, and rerouting the freight tracks is very risky, even if the Hawthorne option is somewhat more expensive at this stage. Remember, the original amount was $880 million when we started this process along the row. It is now $2.2 to $2.8 billion and climbing. This is a 60-year decision, so taking the cheapest route isn't necessarily wise. Again, safety must be the #1 concern. Thanks for your time this evening.
Chelsea, come in.
Okay, who's the Friends of the Green Line guy? Okay, we need to have a conversation. If you got Hermosa Beach and Manhattan Beach a green line, and then you advocate for no green line.
We don't want that.
I know, you guys know I don't want to be here. It's our bedtime. We gotta go to bed. I threw up last night. We're not feeling great. We need to be out of here. You know why I'm here, because my dog was beheaded by the train last year. That's when I got involved. So my ideal is safety. This is just 15 minutes of metro accidents. There's, I don't know how many on multiple pages. I'm here to humanize the people who live along the row. Everybody, Ray, Holly's great, but they're here all the time. They're wonderful. You need to see us. You need to see the hundreds of people who live along the row who are families. And these kids are going to be riding the train in the future. We want the train. We want public transportation, but we also want our families to be safe. So when you guys vote on this, which I hope you guys do, think about it. And think about the hundreds of families who are along the road who are going to be impacted by this. If it goes down the middle of Hawthorne Boulevard, it's going to be raised up. It's going to be safer. No one's going to get hurt. Someone posted about a accident in 1972, just 3 blocks from my house, where the freight train careened off and killed 2 people in a car and a kid that was waiting, just waiting on the side. So that's, she sees cookies. So that stuff scares the bejeebas out of me. And I want you guys to see who we are. And I want you guys to see not just a map, but I want you to see a family. And we're going to live there forever, no matter what, but we just got our foundation fixed because of the freight train. But yeah, I just want you to see us. I want you to know us. And I want to know you guys to see people, not just a map. So thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Kim Turner.
Good evening, Chair and members of the COG. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Kim Turner, Transit Director for Torrance Transit. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As you know, LA Metro prepares to bring light rail to the South Bay via the extension of the existing C line. I encourage you to support the proposed project, the right-of-way with elevated and at-grade option. This option utilizes the existing LA Metro-owned train with a combination of elevated and at-grade segments. It is the most cost-effective option by leveraging the existing transit investment in the Mary K. Giordano Regional Transit Center in Torrance and the Redondo Beach Transit Center. Additionally, it does not encroach on the 105 freeway and avoids impacts to businesses, traffic, and parking on Hawthorne Boulevard. This project is 67% public support from the recent Metro poll for all of the 3 cities combined, with Torrance having 69% support. Additionally, 66.4% support of the right-of-way at elevated and at grade option based on the comments Metro staff received from the draft EIR. Far too long, South Bay has waited for light rail investment. Please advance the only option that builds on completed right-of-way investment and minimizes commuter disruption, and realize both environmental and ridership access the soonest. The right-of-way with the elevated and at-grade option. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Weiner?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so I wanted to voice my support for this extension. I think it is incredibly important for regional transit. As many of you know, this is not going to be the C line, it's going to be the K line, which will go up eventually the whole way to West Hollywood and Hollywood. So this is going to be a massive asset for the South Bay and allows regional transit beyond what is even remotely possible now on public transit. I wanted to give my support for the right-of-way option, either the hybrid elevated at grade or the option with 2 grade separations. I think it is the most effective in terms of cost. We all voted for Measure M. This is the plan that was originally part of that. I think the upgrades to the right-of-way are great. The safety upgrade to the freight train and the green path is also excellent. I wanted to address comments earlier about cities like Paris, building the right option by building things underground. Back then, transit was a lot cheaper to build, and they didn't really have quite as much to contend with. And here we have a right-of-way that is specifically meant for trains, and it would be a great option to put light rail there. About 15 years ago, the Expo Construction Authority, building the Expo line, ran into a similar situation with a choice between the right-of-way and an on-street segment in Cheviot Hills. Fortunately, they chose the right-of-way, and I think they made an excellent decision. The train is quiet, it's fast, it takes people between Santa Monica, downtown, and Culver City, and is a fabulous asset to the region. Also, just wanted to say that this investment will only be maximized if we run lots more buses to get people to the train. So just want to encourage that to be a consideration here, but really appreciate the South Bay COG support here. I appreciate them staying neutral, but definitely am a supporter of the right-of-way. Thank you so much.
Saeed?
Hello, is that me?
Yes.
All right, cool. Hey guys, I'm Zaid. As a Torrance resident and someone who uses public transportation quite a bit, the right-of-way route using existing track is the most sensible and preferred route due to its convenience, heavily reduced cost, and faster estimated completion time. The improvements Metro has planned for the row, including improved track, sound walls, walking paths, etc., would be improvements to what's already there, and the avoidance of major construction on Hawthorne Boulevard for several years would be appreciated by many commuters in the area, including myself. I heavily prefer that to the Hawthorne option, which, aside from having to stop too far from the Redondo Beach Transit Center, is simply too expensive and too far of a timetable to be realistically feasible. I believe the row is the most sensible and convenient for all the South Bay, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. David?
Hello, this is David Mock, Transit Planning Manager, City of Torrance Transit. Thank you for having me speak here. The right-of-way is actually part of an existing railroad tracks, which was the reason why Metro purchased the road years ago. Creating another route in addition to an existing area is not more practical by having it going down the middle of Hawthorne Boulevard, which would impact many of those residents and businesses down there during constructions. As we know, even in the staff report today, it mentions a lot of impact to the existing Hawthorne Boulevard. In addition to that, while not many people realize, and I know one person had mentioned it, is that impacts to businesses, especially with the property takings of some of the businesses right there as the Hawthorne Boulevard returns into the existing right-of-way at 190th. That would impact the city of Torrance and its tax revenues as well. The road does have an earlier completion date, and it has over 66% support from the public during the traffic EIR comment period. The Hawthorne Boulevard will create more traffic lights as it requires for a pedestrian to cross to get to the station in the middle of what is considered almost a highway. It creates safety issues between pedestrians and vehicles going on Hawthorne Boulevard, and ultimately it will create more delays as Metro works with Caltrans to go through the NEPA process and possibly other requirements as well. The city of Torrance is opposed to Hawthorne Boulevard and in supports of the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian, or you pronounce it Ian? Ian?
Ian, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here tonight, giving your time, and all the commenters. Longtime family resident of the South Bay. We've been here for 4 generations, and I think it's just so critical that we bring mass transit and real access and equity to the South Bay. So here to really support this extension and thank the Council of Governments for supporting a path. And I also do want to advocate for the right of way, either the elevated act grade or the hybrid. It's so important that these mass infrastructure projects are completed. They're so complicated already. The idea of all of the additional logistics, costs, time that will come with Hawthorne will really delay the immense benefits of this project for not just hundreds of family along the road who will benefit, but also the entire community. So I'll yield my time and just want to thank everyone for support of this really important initiative.
Thank you. Jan Michael.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Jen Michael Sanchez, and I am here in support of the Metro C line and future K line elevated at grade right-of-way option. Some of my reasons for this is that it can be completed for $2 billion and in the year 2033, as opposed to the Hawthorne Boulevard option that would cost $3 billion and finish 2 years later. As a Torrance resident and student, I rely heavily on Torrance Transit and Metro buses, which are currently slow and get stuck in traffic. A Metro rail extension to Torrance would open a much quicker transportation option, including a 19-minute train ride from the new Torrance Transit Center to LAX, and offer a less than 50-minute train ride once the future K line and extends to Hollywood. And these are options that can only be offered as soon as possible if we support the right-of-way option. While I do understand the concerns of residents in support of the Hawthorne Boulevard option, LA Metro Rail on right-of-ways is already a proven technology. As someone else said before, I think it was Matthew, the E-line, for example, passes through Cheviot Hills on its way from downtown LA to Santa Monica on an old rail right-of-way. And this E-line section that passes through Cheviot Hills is equipped with sound barriers, and light rail trains are electrically powered, therefore quiet. Similar examples have been proven successful in the case with the A-line in Highland Park, so I think this would be a great addition for Torrance and all of the South Bay. The Hawthorne Boulevard option, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. I attended Supervisor Holly Mitchell's community walk back in December and was astounded by the amount of noise on Hawthorne Boulevard. As was stated before, Hawthorne has many lanes, about 10 or so, and exposes riders to not only car exhaust, but also a lot of noise pollution. Transit riders know all of these advantages, as well as 67% of surveyed South Bay residents support the elevated at-grade right-of-way, which I hope will be the chosen option in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to us, Valerie Munoz. When I reduced it to 2 minutes, it brought everybody back.
Okay, somebody told me I wasn't going to be able to talk.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Nilo?
Yes, that would be
Nilo Mitchell?
Nilo Michelin.
My
name is Nilo Vega Michelin. I'm on the El Camino Board of Trustee. I'm a candidate for the state senate. I went to the Holly Mitchell neighborhood walk and I spoke to the residents of Lawndale. And clearly
the Hawthorne Boulevard is the best option. Let me tell you why. That right of way was 1 block west along Inglewood Boulevard, we wouldn't even have this discussion. You know, it's true. That would have been a green line, just like the Manhattan Beach right of way became a green line, just like the Hermosa Beach became a green line. So, and magically there'd be extra funding up here for the Hawthorne Boulevard. So also, my second reason is safety. I drive across the Blue Line every day. Go to the Florence station in the Blue Line, walk around the neighborhoods there and see the disruption that happened in the neighborhoods there. Students have been killed along there. This line would destroy that Lawndale neighborhood. Talk to the Lawndale neighbors. Talk to the families walking to the school from one end of the railroad to another, people walking their dogs, and you'll realize that this is going to cause a massive disruption. Another one is practical. Why is Hawthorne Boulevard so wide? Because we used to have the 5 and dime. We used to have the red line that used to go all the way up to downtown, all the way down to San Pedro. Most transit in Asia and in Europe, they go down the main way. You'll get a better return on investment if you go down Hawthorne Boulevard. It's been proven over and over and over again. So please, please, please choose the Hawthorne Boulevard option and save the Lawndale neighborhood. Do not destroy the Lawndale neighborhood. Walk along that area yourself and you'll see what I mean. Thank you.
Dr. Valerie.
Hi, I'm Valerie Munoz. I live just 1 block from the road. In keeping with South Bay City's Council of Government, the South Bay region is environmentally sustainable as it is. It's reduced congestion and a healthy economy. I agree. The residents along the road are environmentally sustainable. Kids in houses and apartments can walk and ride bikes to school safely and have a healthy home environment from the harmful direct lines of city transportation. The Metro C line down the road will negate that environmental sustainability. Safe walks and bike rides to school will be compromised with the road line going through neighborhoods. Create kids and families with restraints other family. Stop the traffic lines at the train crossings are a recipe for accidents. Additionally, someone has talked about that fuel, freight, and residences and healing communities do not mix and should never be considered. We spoke to noise before, and I agree with that it's going to be extremely noisy, spilling into the houses and windows in apartment buildings nearby. Sustainability means fostering equitable distribution of resources and opportunities. Where I live, just a block from the road, is a multi-zone neighborhood where a single-family house lives adjacent to 2 townhomes and an apartment building. We share resources and look after each other, especially in times of need with the COVID lockdown. My street reflects the diversity of LA families: Latinx, Black, White, and Asian, firefighters, restaurant workers, retirees, groundskeepers, and educators. Sustainability is defined by fostering
The time is up. Please complete your thoughts.
And opportunities. I ask that you consider the needs of some of the most under-resourced South Bay families. The Hawthorne elevated option is the only reasonable solution that would help Hawthorne Boulevard grow and thrive as a commercial zone and connect people from all over LA to come to the South Bay and more of the South Bay to greater LA.
Michael Kim.
So we've had a few people talking about how challenging it will be to shoehorn a freight line with 2 light rail metro lines into a line that was originally designed to be a freight line, which is what it's been all these years. And all the dangers of moving the line closer to people's houses, poles getting covered with dust during the construction and even during operation, and so forth. But one thing that comes to my mind right now is what's going to happen in 40 or 50 years when these lines are all finished. We're going to have the weather's changing. getting these 100-year storms almost on a yearly basis. We had a Super Bowl or a game in Buffalo where the fans had to shovel out their own get to their seats, right? And San Diego, I saw cars floating down streets just this week. So what's going to happen?
I need you to move.
It's already dangerous as it is, and now we're talking about. Let's think about what happens when we start getting these storms. When freight cars and freight trains can start floating away and going into these houses that are now just 10 or 15 feet from people's homes. So that's a concern for me. I just learned a new word today, agglomeration, and the bus station over in Redondo Beach. That is a poor use of agglomeration if I'm using it correctly, because you've got a cemetery there to the west of that bus station, and that is useless as far as people and residents and industry is concerned. You want to put that right in the middle of Redondo Beach up Hawthorne Boulevard, where you've got perfect agglomeration, if I'm using that word correctly, and you've got a lot of people who work there, live there, eat there, and shop there, and they—
Time is up. Please complete your thought. John Huff.
John Huff?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, my name's John Huff. I live near the South Bay Galleria, and I wanted to just mention a couple things. When I first bought my house, a number of residents remembered when the Alameda Corridor got built, and that took rail down from downtown Los Angeles to the harbors, carried a lot of cargo, and the Burlington Northern Santa Fe only goes by twice a day. Now we're threatening with the right-of-way proposal to take all that away. So I'm here to advocate an elevated line down Hawthorne Boulevard. Now, we talk about cost. Well, two of the most successful projects in the history of the MTA have been the Orange Route in the San Fernando Valley, and the expected riderships double what they thought. And the Santa Monica to downtown Los Angeles has tripled the expected ridership that has caused increased revenue to Metro to help offset any construction costs that ever existed. I don't think that's being considered. The last thing I wanted to mention is in the draft environmental impact report and a lot of other things that you read from Metro, they're calling the right-of-way the proposed route. And we don't think that it's fair that just because 30 years ago MTA bought the right to go down either side of the right-of-way should even be a consideration anymore, because so many things have changed. And we can't look each other in the eye and say, it's less expensive, or in the future, it's going to be more cost effective to go down Hawthorne Boulevard, especially when you talk about an area that could benefit from increased economic performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kim Biller?
Kim Gillen?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to, start off with, we're not talking about what everyone wants or doesn't want. It's about safety. So this morning on the news, I was watching, there was a landslide in San Clemente, halts rail service between Orange and San Diego counties. Right after that, I see San Clemente landslide. So there was a North County Transit District. They just got a check for over $53 million. So between Measure M and Metro, they have enough money to do this the safe way, which is down Hawthorne. There's no two options here. When we're talking about putting a train here in the residential city safely, we're talking about safety as a number one. The only safe location to put a light rail train is where all the transportation is located, which is on Hawthorne Boulevard, not on the current freight tracks on Row, where our freight trains are transporting freight that we all rely on daily. So we're not back where we were in San Pedro with all the boats, with all the freight sitting there forever. Businesses losing money. The answer and the solution for Metro is paying as much money as needed to build train tracks that are safe and in the safest, correct location, where everybody is using transportation to get around. I'm for Metro, but I'm not for putting it in an area that's either not needed or it's going to destroy the neighborhood. The freight trains are staying on their current tracks as they have for years, handling our freight, which is more important than having a couple people ride on a train a couple times a year, if that. The ridership is low. Stats show that this is a major decision, and obviously this requires thinking way ahead into the future, hundreds of years from now. And it isn't safe and it isn't financially sensible to have a train carrying people riding 365 days a year, all day, all night, directly behind homes with families and children. There's current gravestones that are being found. There are so many negatives. I can go on all night. There's tons of pipelines, soil issues, families and children at stake with derailments, earthquakes. We all have no control over Mother Nature and all that stuff. I'm just
your time
wanting
is up.
to point out the obvious. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Keith Sutter?
Hi, thanks for members of the COG to be here and make our comments. A lot of you have already heard my thoughts in terms of a song, but I figured that since that's been done, I'll just talk. So when I first heard about the proposed extension of the Green Line back 4 or 5 years ago, I was excited immediately. And major reason for that is that I'm probably the only person around that actually knows what light rail would be like in the South Bay. As a young man, I rode that with my dad from the downtown to the end of the line, from the end of the line to downtown on the red car. And I thought it was fantastic, and I was dismayed that it was removed. So now the thought is, here it comes again. And I took a walk through the neighborhood. I said, this is so great, they're gonna bring it back. And then I was shocked. I went, wait a minute, this is the plan to put this in the neighborhood here? Wait a minute, the red car, Hawthorne Boulevard was built for the red car. It's got this huge median place. That's where the red car was. And it's got lanes on both sides, 5 lanes. It's designed for light rail. And in all of those businesses that are on either side, they would benefit from having light rail service. Now, in terms of the people are kind of poo-pooing the situation of the danger of having the rail at the crossings of 182nd and 170th, it's dangerous. And if you just think you're going to ignore that, just remember one thing, that kids cross those places to get to school, both at 182nd and especially at 170th. And what happens when there's a guard arm goes down, and when suddenly a kid is on a bike or on an e-bike or even just on foot and he's late to school? It happens.
Complete your thoughts. Time is up.
Tries to beat the train. We don't need this. We don't need this. Put it on the elevated track down Hawthorne. Thank you.
But there's been much discussion about the proposed sea line. Metro has proposed several variations for the route, and many cities have expressed their position which are not in line with each other. The South Bay COG is a consensus organization, and the South Bay COG has not presented any recommendation. But if this body wants to select a route, it would be only a recommendation. Metro is the ultimate approval for the sea line, and if a route is selected, it should be conveyed to them. South Bay COG appear to be receiving all of the attention, but we at the South Bay COG do not approve any routes that are governed by Metro, and I urge all of us, based upon all the discussion that's been today, to make sure you go to the Metro meetings, express your concerns with them so that they understand what you as individuals who live in those cities want to have in their community. So at this point in time, turn it back over to Jackie for other information regarding, is there a vote or any of my colleagues have anything to say? Well, they have the shoes.
I think she raised her hand first.
Hi, Bernadette Suarez, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Lawndale. I just wanted to give a background on our council and the position we took. We originally had a no build at all, but we were told by a Metro board member that that wasn't a viable option to pick a choice. And so our thought was what was going to be least impactful to our residents was the Hawthorne Boulevard option with mitigation measures. So I just wanted to put it out there. That was our council's position.
Right.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to say that I wanted to speak on behalf of the city because we had already taken a vote on this. The city of Torrance does prefer the row. I'm not necessarily crazy personally about the row. Quite honest, I'm not crazy about the project in itself. But that is our position. Now, having said that, I don't think we have consensus at this table. Therefore, I would really like us to take a neutral position as a COG. I think that's probably the, in my opinion, the most fair position is to not take one, especially that we don't have a unified decision here tonight. If it were unanimous, then I'd say, hey, let's do it. But look at the map. Torrance is, one of the largest, if not the largest city in the South Bay, and probably most impacted, being that we'd probably be at the end of the line. So I would really urge us to stay neutral on this if we can. So thank you.
Alex. Well, Alex Monteiro from the city of Hawthorne. We, since November, we made a position to go with the Hawthorne elevated way. So we sent a letter to Metro. So Hawthorne is for the elevated way. So for those in Lawndale, so we're with you, okay?
Anything, James?
Well, I loved everything everybody said. Right now, because I have to vote on it, I can't express opinion right now. But you have to applaud all of you. You made excellent cases, and it reaffirmed my faith in the public process.
But you should tell them that you're on the Metro board. So that's why
I'm on the Metro board.
That's why they don't. Yeah, they don't know.
I have to vote on it. I'm on the Metro board.
Yeah. So that's why he has to stay neutral.
Anybody?
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
No, go ahead.
You go first. I spoke once already, but you want to go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is very passionate, and God love y'all because y'all have opinions. We all know what we kind of want and what we don't want, but as this COG sits together, you can see that there are different opinions from every city and every city official. So what I'm saying is I agree that this project needs to go forward as a COG member, but I also feel that the COG needs to stay neutral in this, and that we will allow Metro and to make that decision. So my motion is for the COG to actually support the project, but stay neutral in the process.
I'll second that. Thank you, Barry. It was Barry. It's been properly moved and second, David, because we do have Deanna.
So
yes, I'm here. I didn't realize my mayor was going to be there. So yeah. So however we should handle, I'm open.
Okay. Well, he's here. But open for discussion. Now that we got a motion and a second discussion.
So I respectfully, this is going to be the largest public works project we're going to have ever in the history of the South Bay. We are a tax donor to the system. We need to think about this strategically over the next 150 years. We're never going to do this over again. It's never going to get done a second time. If we do it down the right of way and we say, oh, we made a mistake, we need to go down Hawthorne Boulevard, it's an infeasible pathway. And the reason I did the slideshow and it showed that is because, you look at other countries and other areas and our current past and what we've done and what other countries have done, you make these decisions, that's where the center of attention is going to be. Hawthorne Boulevard is going to be the future of the South Bay with the development, the density, the commercial density, commercial development. And when we look at where Hermosa Manhattan have done with their right-of-ways, they were able to convert that to green space and open space. Torrance will be able to do the same. You'll be able to do the same as well with the power plant line. I think it's important. We're all still going to be friends at the end of the day. Yeah, we're paid here. We're elected here to make hard, tough decisions. But I do think we should make a decision and for the Hawthorne option, because it is something that's going to affect us all for the next 100+ years. And I think it's important that we do that.
One more thing to say. I cannot support the project without knowing which route is actually going to be selected. So for this one, I'm going to be a no.
James, you're going to be voting?
No, Deanna is actually the alternate. She's the delegate.
She's a delegate? Okay. All right.
No.
Patrick, you got a hand here?
Support the project or not.
Oh. That is, go Justin.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
I support the motion. I think it makes sense. We're a consensus-based organization. Let's support the project. Let's stay neutral. I'll share for what it's worth that if it came to a vote in terms of which alignment we would support, the right-of-way option is the one I would support. I've listened to hours of testimony and followed this. The case has not been made for the Hawthorne alignment. I don't think it can be made. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
David.
I want to thank those that have been present tonight. I, from Manhattan Beach, share your concerns. I understand what this would be like for a rail line to be increased in capacity so close to home. But I must look at my role here tonight as a fiduciary of the COG, which I've been involved with for 8 years, only 8 years of its tenure, where we really provide a forum for collaboration, for working together and trying to move this project forward. I'm thinking of all of the hours and time and monies that have been dedicated to extending this line. And as a result, I'm in favor of the motion because it moves this project forward. We are not the ultimate decision makers here. So I urge you to be engaged with your own communities and with the Metro Board, but I will be supporting the motion.
Any other comments from my colleague?
Can I get a clarification on the motion?
Okay.
So the motion is to support it, but not know where it's going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, which kind of pretty much means anything. It could be anything.
Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that to bring it to the position?
Yeah, it's basically we as a group, because we're all engaged together. Some have a dog in the fight, some don't, but the motion basically just says we do support this Sea Line project, but we will not take a position. We're going to stay neutral as far as where it goes and how it goes, what city it goes through and how it's built, whether it's Torrance, Lawndale. We're just going to stay neutral on that. And like, we don't, it's not our vote. It's going to be Metro.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I think the COG does carry some weight. I personally, I think we're using the wrong word. Staying neutral means staying neutral, not taking a vote whether to take either way or support it or not support it. You know, I really urge us to just stay out of it. Let the Metro Board do their decision. But I think it's way open-ended. The motion, it seems to me, at least in my opinion, way too open-ended. We're just supporting, we're supporting it, but not really pinpointing where it's going to be. So
yes or no?
Yeah, I don't mean to come in, but it does matter what the COG recommends. It definitely matters to me because I represent you. So I want you to know that, you should do, what you feel you need to do, but it matters to me what you collectively represent. It matters to me what they collectively represent. I want you to understand that. And if you don't have a position, then you put all the pressure on me. But I can handle it, all right? I can handle it, all right.
Thank you. With that being said, and I heard the comments and understanding that there's a motion on the floor in regards to what is being already second. And discussion again from...
Yes, please. Well, being on the peninsula, of course, it doesn't directly affect our city in terms of an alignment like it does some of the other cities that have spoken. But it matters to all the cities in the South Bay. I mean, the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, which I represent, our residents need to go to the airport. We need to travel through the South Bay. And we, of course, spend a lot of tax dollars. And so we want to make sure whatever's ultimately decided upon by Metro is a good, efficient line so people can get to where they need to go. I hate, even though I'm a politician, I hate when things get decided just because of political reasons. As an engineer, I always say, what's the best engineering solution? And that's not the best either, because you can hear, it might be best to go right through a bunch of homes, but it's not. That's not the right answer necessarily. I understand where our vice chair is coming from in regards to kind of keeping some harmony, but I also hear our Metro board member over here saying, I need some direction.
Well, no, I appreciate it. And I don't interrupt, but you made a very great point. You said you're an engineer, and you know engineering wise, what would be the best for efficiency, right? However, when you do a project that's going to change things for generations, it's more than that. It's what impact is it going to have on the economy? What impact is it going to have on the livability? Because in every major project, there's a livability component where people are harmed actually. But you know, if we didn't do everything because some socialization would be harmed, we wouldn't have freeways. We wouldn't have trains. And so this is what we're doing. We're making a collective decision, looking at livability, looking at the economy, and looking at the future children. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not necessary that you come to a conclusion because there's so many variables, so many unknowns. But think about that when you pick an option. It should be based upon the collective good. And that's the way that I'm going to vote when it comes up before the board.
And thank you for that. I guess my point was going to be that I feel like we have so many people here that are you know, obviously are passionate about this issue, but I think we also have a lot of smart people in this room that could probably provide what the COG stands for in regards to this project. And so I feel like the vote's great, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's enough. Like maybe we should be saying, you know, what our goals are as the COG, if it's environmental concerns or, you know, getting people from point A to point B as efficiently, whatever it is. And I feel like maybe we could do that in the future and provide more feedback. And I hope we do. Like, I hope this isn't the last vote tonight and just saying we want the project and we take no position on the alternative. I hope that we can continue to help provide feedback so that Metro can make a great decision. The best decision for all of us is my point.
I appreciate all those comments at the table, and I appreciate the comments from the audience. And you're passionate about this. You will be living with the construction and the project, regardless of what happens. I'm going to be supporting the motion because I think at the end of the day, it really is a decision for Metro, and I would expect Mr. Butts to recuse himself from voting on this because as Mr. Cruikshank said, some of us don't have a dog in the fight. Yes, we use Hawthorne. Yes, we use the airport. We use public transportation. I'll be using it soon when my children take my car keys away from me, probably. So I'm going to care about those. But for now, I'm not going to be the city people living with the construction and the safety issues and everything else. I think that's a decision that Metro will undertake. And I think that your passion will translate really well to Metro because you're the people who are going to be living with it. And the people who represent those cities at the table are going to be the people that are responsible to their constituents during this whole process. So I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Any more comments?
All right. So I represent the city of Rolling Hills, and as the other peninsula cities, we're not directly impacted, but I think that the thrust of the motion, as I understand it, is that we support mass transit to the South Bay. Now, the form that it takes is something that, as others have said, is not something that's within our purview or our decision making. However, we do want mass transit, and I've heard a myriad of concerns that have been addressed here, and I've only been a few meetings, but I'm not sure that I'm in the best position be making that decision, even if I was the ultimate arbiter without hearing much more than what I've heard so far. So rather than opine on the best course of action when I don't have all the information, I think the only course of action we realistically can take as a COG is simply to support mass transit and to indicate that at this point, we're not taking a position on the particular option that Metro should take, because it might even change. I mean, it may even change. They might do a permutation of something else besides the two options. But your concern should be addressed to them because that is Metro is the ultimate arbiter of this decision. So that would be my position in support of the motion.
Thank you, Bree. Any other comments?
Well, I'll be abstained because we have made a position as a council member to support the Hawthorne Way. So the motion I'll be abstaining on, but I cannot vote yes.
David, roll call vote, please.
Motion for everybody. It's to support the sea line extension project, but to not take a position on the alignment. Okay, since Councilmember Falk will be voting for Inglewood, I gotta do a roll call. Carson.
Yes.
El Segundo is not present. Gardina.
Yes.
Hawthorne.
Abstain.
Hermosa Beach.
Yes.
Inglewood.
Is Dion here?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Dion, you can vote, Dion.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that I'm not doing something, because I know you're recusing yourself. So yes, I would support the motion. Yes.
Wando.
No.
Lamita.
Yes.
LA City is no longer here. Manhattan Beach.
Yes.
Palos Verdes Estates, not here. Rancho Palos Verdes.
Yes.
Redondo Beach.
Aye.
Rolling Hills.
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates.
Yes.
Torrance.
No.
Council Supervisor District 2.
Yes.
And District 4.
Yes.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 yeses, which means the motion passes.
Okay.
Take 12.
Well.
We'll count that again.
Oh, and Dion, yeah, 12. 1, 1.
He's the lawyer.
I'm detail oriented. I can't take it out of it.
OCD, I always count.
Next, Finance Committee report.
Oh, boy. Okay. We need to take a break.
Yeah, let's take can we do a 5-minute break? 5-minute break.
Do you want me to take this?
No, I might get some more. You can take it away.
These two.
I don't think so. I think so. I might get another 30.
Take the motion. All of it. That's how many people.
That's how many spoke.
Had our seat for a while.
But it was funny because when I talked to Jack, it's over with. Because I talked to Jackie earlier.
Okay, so the finance committee for the COG, we all met for the third time. So present were myself, Zane, Obaji, Barry White, John Cruikshank, Victoria Lazzi, and Christian Horvath, who is actually representing Pat Wilson. So on our third one, we basically did an overview of the restricted reserve policy that we have and our dues formula. So those are the two major issues that we kind of went over. So we reviewed our COG and other COGs reserve policies and others in their dues formulas and how they do their increased practices throughout the COGs. We discussed the reserve policy options and related data from the South Bay COG shutdown costs and operational expenses. We also went into current dues formula, reviewed numerous dues scenarios, including an updated agency population and budgets. And we discussed the what value the COG brings to our cities and the return on the investment that we give as far as programming. And so one last note was between that last meeting and tonight, there was a city managers meeting with the COG, and the city managers reviewed what we are going to present tonight, and they approved what our recommendations are going to be tonight. They like how we presented stuff and how we're going to try to get through this. So we're going to start with the restricted reserve policy. So we reviewed this policy, and there was a consensus that all of us came to, and you'll hear why at the end. But the restricted reserve is going to be based on operational expense equal to 3 months and reviewed every 5 years. So the 3 month, what this entails, it will be a 3 months of operational expenses based on 22-23 year-end close, which would be $347,884. To let you know, our current restricted reserve balance is $405,000. So we've already met that goal and we're over it. Now, when we started discussing this reserve, Christian Horvath was the one that kind of made the comment that had everybody come together, is that when we first started this reserve policy, we felt that we needed a huge reserve in case the COG shut down. And there were humongous costs in order to pay that if we shut down. The great comment is that we've been in business for a long time now, and the possibility of the COG shutting down and needing all those reserves is nil. So when we looked at this formula and using this 3 months of operational expenses and already being ahead of that goal, we felt that that was the best way to proceed with our reserves. So we're going to go ahead and do the 3 months operational, and then continue to add on to our current reserve balance. The next one was our dues. Okay, now dues, this was a hot topic. We did a lot of gnashing of teeth, and we discussed a lot of issues. But after the review and the discussion, the finance committee came to the following consensus. So our formula is to keep the existing dues calculation, which includes the assessment and the $5,000 minimum fee with the county and city of LA, and treated the same as Torrance, and increased dues annually based on the annual CPI. Okay. So fiscal year 23-24 total dues were $485,313 and would increase by approximately 3.5% for a total of $502,000 in 24-25. Now, there were a lot of discussion points in this. So the existing dues calculation has the most even spread among the members and the accounts for the diversity of size, resources, business, and resident population. So cities, when they're doing their budgets, when they're trying to make sure what is presented at the time of our budgets, cities like to have certainty in the dues so that they know what to put in their budgets. It's not a guessing game. It's not something like we did before where we all of a sudden had to come up with what were our dues, who's paying what. This formula that we came up with makes it consistent. So everybody knows every year what the dues will be, okay? So the formula, okay, the formula needs to be set with regular increases so that there aren't any lapses between increases causing a financial instability. I think we kind of had that problem in the past. And so that was one of the things that we threw around. So the continued discussions using valuable time and resources for the city and elected officials and staff. We incorporated the assessment, and by doing this, we felt it was important due to the changing policies of other agencies and how much the administration can be charged to grants. And some of that grant issues are starting to pop up too, where they're not paying for staff time. They're only paying for limited things along with what the grant actually is. Oh, shoot. Sorry, kind of lost myself there. Okay, so the COG is not like any other agency that is in the South Bay, okay, membership organizations. So comparisons of the 475 members of the League of California Cities, 77 member contract cities, the 40 member independent cities, and 17 member COG. It's kind of like balancing apples and oranges. The COG does a lot. So the COG provides direct services to the cities with their extension of the staffs from our cities. So there we get kind of a double balance of help. So if you look at the percentage of operational expenses covered by dues is 35%. The rest is 65. So when we came up with the chart for dues, next slide, this is what the 3.5 CPI looks like.
Can I just say something? Since Rodney saw this last, the CPI, it's an annual CPI, and this is going to be the number. It isn't potential anymore. This will be the number.
Okay, so we are now at 3.5. So I'm bringing this to you tonight because the Finance Committee, our 3 meetings that we met, this is the bottom line conclusion of what we are bringing to you.
But one more thing, the steering committee did ask that you come back to them one more time. So this is not they're not asking for a recommendation necessarily, but they're asking for comments and
yeah, we can meet again.
Discussion.
So when you said annual CPI, is this what you've calculated for the year going forward and it'll change in another year, or is it going to be 3.5 every year? You know, some of us who have
it changes every year.
Yeah, some of us who have negotiated with our employees every year, that we had one year where CPI was 6%, 7%, and we're definitely not going to give them a 7% raise,
right,
you know, for 1 year. So how would we deal with any spikes in the CPI?
Well, that's a good question. That was something that we have to
We can bring that back. I just want to say last year when we had this discussion, there was a discussion about putting a cap on the seat.
Okay.
But that is not part of what the Finance Committee has so far discussed.
I think maybe we should think about that again. Okay.
That's why we brought it back to you guys.
Yeah.
Give us some more input.
You're welcome. Happy birthday.
Join our committee.
No, I'm already on one.
Yes, me.
Yeah, so I have not been provided the information about the Finance Committee meeting. I would have made efforts to attend, but I just wanted to underscore in our city, based on what the city council has said, has always been very clear that we don't have the resources as a very small city. We're the very smallest city in the South Bay and one of the very smallest cities in the whole county and state. So we had advocated for some type of category based on our population size and so forth. And that this formula does not address that. So I just wanted to put that out there because our city has been in a position where the majority of the people there could say, we're just going to pull out. And, you know, I would personally love to stay with the COG. And so that's something that I want to put out in terms of an accommodation. We don't have the resources. We have no commercial in our city. We only have it from property taxes. And so far, we've been able to manage, but this time we've been doing capital improvement projects. So we've had to draw from a lot of our operating expenses from reserves, which we've never had to do before. So that's one thing I just wanted to say. I do think that there's something that should be said to accommodate for that and as an equalizer for a city of our size.
Okay. Solely noted.
And that, again, that's why we're going back to another finance committee meeting to kind of throw all this other information.
The steering committee.
Steering committee.
Any other comments?
Just a question. Jackie, can you refresh my recollection with so much of what the COG does based on contracts and grants? Remind me again of why more of those contracts grants cannot cover more of our base operating expenses. I understand it's a best practice, it's a tradition, but can you articulate why we can't underwrite beyond just the bodies that are perhaps supporting a grant, support our operating expenses? Because obviously we wouldn't be in a position to accept the grant if we didn't have a structure, didn't have operational administrative employees.
We have, the grants do give obviously a small administrative budget. The problem we're having, and it's becoming, and it's going to be exacerbated, is we have a lot of grants. So we have a bookkeeper and we have to cover her expenses. We have to cover my expenses. We have to cover Kim's expenses. And we have to cover Colleen's expenses, who does a lot of PR and helps our grants tremendously since we've had this careers in communications. So that's our ones that are definitely not covered necessarily by working on the substance of the grant. The problem that we're having is we're getting money for homeless services. Perfect, not a problem. We're getting money for energy efficiency, and that's coming in fine and more and more and more. Transportation, we're getting less and less money because the Measure R projects, we really got money to do a lot of Measure R. That money is being depleted. Measure M is being depleted. So there's not as much transportation money that we're getting. SCAG, land use, all of the housing papers, when we do research on the housing trust, all of that is not covered. And there's more and more of that. It's like your problem with RENA and everything else. We're getting more and more of these things that we have to do for state agencies and others, and then none of that is covered. We don't have grants for that. And as of today, I'm going to tell you this later, but I'll tell you this now. Just a second. REAP, the SCAG REAP program, which we were going to have, maybe even have to hire somebody we didn't even know. That's a land use program. Because of the governor's budget, they're suspending the entire REAP program. So those are the things that we would use for all these other things, and we don't have that money.
So the follow-up is, we're not alone. What are the other COGs doing to address this same sort of issue? Are they just simply reducing scope of programming, or what?
We've asked them, and they're what they say is they're handling their overhead and dues. They're just having it take it out of dues. They're also, San Gabriel Valley, for example, has a construction authority. They have a housing trust. They have a whole bunch of places that they can, pay for administration, because all of that is administered by the COG. So it's different. And Bronson has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I fight all the time with the county to get more Jackie knows, at late nights talking to our county representatives, fighting for more money to the COG. But unfortunately, there is an administrative expense that they can allow with taxpayer dollars, as you can imagine. It's usually like 10–12%. The nonprofits we have to contract with, they want that money. And so the county's position has always been, well, they see this as a co-investment for our cities. So because our cities don't have to contract with outreach workers or not pay for shared housing, and the county's covering that with Measure H dollars, the shared investment would be more dues to the COG. But that's how the county views it.
Yeah, and I also want to mention, especially with our county representatives here, that I have been fighting since Measure H started. They fund us $79,000 a year for staff. And that's been the same. They have not raised it 1 penny for what they give us for staffing on that administrative cost. And that's what, 5 years old now? So that we're stuck with fixed costs that we can't do anything about.
Thank you.
We need to raise those.
Others?
I have a quick question. Does the League of Cities accommodate your city for that small population?
I believe they do. Our dues are pretty small. And they look at population.
Do you know roughly what they are?
They're definitely less than 2,000.
Less than 2,000?
Yes. We only have like a little over 1,700 people living in our city, residents. So if you amortize these dues over that, I mean, we're paying way more. And so they look at it in our council, they're very like members, people start saying, this is this much per resident. Are we really getting that number of services from the COG per resident to justify this expense, especially when we're pulling from reserves for operating expenses? So I'm just saying, we're not, you know, the cash cow and where we could say, hey, let's just do it because it's a good thing. They're really crunching the numbers now.
Well, then what would it cost? And I think you already know, I know you already know, but I mean, to your residents, what would it cost to do the same things if you didn't have the COG? And the answer is a lot more. So if you want to talk about maximizing value, there it is. But it is a weird situation because your population is so small. Of course, it's good that we didn't go with the other plan that was based on the elevation of your city hall.
Always being counted on something completely different into the mix. Okay, but yes, bringing back Monty Python, you know, here we are, you know, for something completely different. Yeah,
but it's but the fact is, it's a deal. It's a bargain. I mean, the investment that we get. I can tell you,
come to our council meeting, Gary.
I have,
and I know, but all I'm saying, and you realize they were really a tough crowd there.
Yeah,
so
I did a little headway with them. I'll keep working on it.
Well, you left before you heard the rest of it.
Meetings are long.
Just saying. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, just if you can throw us a bone, we are in a unique position, bar none, and in our COG. So I just want to put that out there, you know, just out the sword, I'm falling on it. You know, there you go. You got it right here.
And that's what this is tonight. The presentation of the board is to get feedback because we are going to meet again at the steering committee in April. So we'll have more feedback. So I'm going to put down B that you want us to throw you a bone.
Yeah, okay. Some flesh on it, so we know exactly what that means. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. It's not next month.
We got your back.
What? February's next. So it's the steering committee. April?
It's not coming up at.
Did he just say that?
At the board on the.
Yeah, no, what's going to happen is the steering committee will make a final recommendation, and the board has to vote because
we need to meet. That's in May though, right?
The board votes in February on just all the only vote in February, according to the bylaws, is if there is any intention of raising the dues, you have to give 60 days notice. So the February meeting is, we have an intention of raising the dues, and then it all happens in April.
Okay.
Essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be brought back to the steering committee.
We're gonna warn.
That would be the February steering committee.
February steering committee.
Because he said the April steering committee. That's why I wanted to.
It's the February steering committee that we will discuss this, and then the board will, the idea is the board has to decide if they want to possibly increase the dues, and the notice has to go out in February.
Okay.
All right. You need anything else, Rodney?
Other stuff for me?
That's good.
I'll just say thanks to the finance committee. It sounds like you had a pretty diverse group of stakeholders involved, including Rolling Hills. I get the conundrum that we're in, but when I look at it, I understand conceptually the co-investment piece. I mean, we want all the cities to have skin in the game so they get the most out of the COGS that they can. They're motivated to do so. And when I look at the dues that are projected for my city, I'm confident we get that value and more out of the COG because that's a small fraction of the cost of a full-time employee.
And again, to reiterate though, the city managers like this, they like this formula. They agree that this is the easiest, the most efficient one for them as city managers when they're doing their budgets and stuff. So
was that a unanimous vote?
Well, I don't know who was there.
It was a unanimous vote of the people that were there.
Yeah.
But for example, Rolling Hills city manager wasn't there, to be honest. But we don't have, but the issue is, I mean, we've worked with city staff in Rolling Hills to submit 2 possible grants. I mean, we spent a lot of time working with Rolling Hills to try to help them on their staffing. So it's just, you couldn't, for $8,000, you couldn't get an employee.
And I think part of the problem for us as a board is, and we every year we're hearing that Rolling Hills, it's just too much, but we never hear what number they're proposing. Like, and the only way you can, but
they gave it to us last year.
Last year, we did.
so that's the maximum you guys want to pay, is that?
Well, that's what was discussed at the council meeting last year.
3,000 or something?
1,700. I'm nowhere.
What is it proposed to be?
8,000.
8,000.
8,000, and they paid 3.
They paid 3 this last year.
That was for 1 year.
That'd be wide chasm.
Yeah.
That was a 1 year.
For that, they had paid 6,000, I think, 7,000.
Wasn't one of the issues when we went through all this with Rolling Hills last time was that we had not raised dues in a while? And so this formula will then let everybody know you're on notice that every year it's going to go up by CPI or whatever you agree or whatever you propose.
Put a cap on that bad boy.
Yeah, I think Rolling Hills is paying 6,000, and then for 1 year only, we reduced it.
Okay, so it'll go back and we'll toss this around again and see what we come up with. Okay. All right, anything else? No? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rodney.
We'll be as fast as we can with the reports, but we do have a lot to tell you, starting with David and the General Assembly.
Okay, the program's coming together. Don't know this year we're the theme is artificial intelligence, friend or foe for the South Bay. And we know that AI is the hot topic at every conference we go to. But what we're trying to do is keep it at a high level and sort of demystify it and show cities kind of what you could potentially do with it in the city, and also things that you need to kind of keep an eye out for, and how to sort of do it responsibly if you guys are going to use it. We're going to start the day off with an exhibit hall like we normally do. It's going to be a little bit longer this year. And it's going to have, hopefully, if we can line up some exhibitors, a focus on AI tools and firms and products that will give you guys, and not just you, but everybody that's there, a real idea, kind of hands-on of what AI tools do and what you can. I mean, there's one we're talking about that can analyze bills and even write draft letters of support or opposition for you based on kind of what your inputs are. So we're trying to give you a real world experience of what AI could do. The program itself will start off with a speaker kind of just overview of what AI is versus generative AI, ways that we might have already kind of interacted with it. We'll have a speaker that I think is probably one of the more interesting ones. He's coming in from Arizona, and he currently teaches civic leaders how to use generative AI to do work. And what he kind of does is pulls up ChatGPT or whatever the tool is, and let's put an RFP together live in person so you can see how it actually works. And he said one time that they had the system crashed, and it gave him a good opportunity to teach everybody how do you work through that. Because if you just are following instructions that are on the paper and you run into something that's not on the paper, you kind of get lost. And so he's going to go over real world experience. He kind of calls it driver's ed for generative AI. And the way he kind of frames everything is we don't need to know how the car works. We just need to know how to drive the car. Mm-hmm. And so it's a high level, but hands-on experience. Our keynote will be, if you haven't seen on your little papers, Ted Lieu. He's going to focus on cybersecurity and AI and what's going on at the federal level. And then our final kind of panel will focus on, we're calling it ethics right now, but it's more of how to use it responsibly. There's a gentleman from a small town up in the Bay Area, a city manager who's, they're just rolling out a AI use policy, so kind of best practices for if you're going to have your staff start to use AI, how they should do it, and kind of procedures and protocol that should be put in place to make sure that you're not just taking ChatGPT's output and putting it on an agenda for you guys to approve, that there's potentially a certain set of eyes that need to look at it, the rules of how to use it within the city. And then we're also working with the National League of Cities to have somebody from their organization come out and talk about AI and ethics and some of the other use cases that cities from throughout the country have been doing. We talked to him earlier today and said that there's a small handful of cities that are really going down that path, that have really thought through how do we do this responsibly. So we're trying to keep the program much more concise and not so in the weeds and shorter, so that we can give everybody time to socialize and network and
the exhibit hall.
And yeah, the exhibit hall will be a little bit longer this year. So overall, same kind of flow as the last 23 GAs.
Working on the
but a little bit more time for everybody to get together and socialize, and a little bit less dense topic. Sponsors are starting to roll in. I think as of right now, we have raised 22,000. Our goal is 60,000, so we're on our way. But if anybody has any contacts at companies or firms that are using AI tools that you think might want to exhibit and or sponsor, please send them my way. It's sort of like cold calling right now. And if you have that warm handoff, an introduction, it kind of opens the door a little bit better. So feel free to send over to either me or Jackie any kind of contacts that you might have that you might think would be a good fit for the program. So I think that's it in a nutshell at this point. Please register if you haven't. Anything I'm missing?
No. I want to, Justin has been sending me issues about the deep fake idea and campaigning. I'm not sure we're going to get to that at the GA. We might touch on it, but I am following up. And as of today, one of the things I did today was contacted Dean Logan, the registrar, to find out if there's anything actually going on at the county to address that from the county, as this election starts. So I'm trying to, I want to recognize to you that I agree with you. This is something that all of us that are concerned about politics and people making the right decisions should know more about.
I absolutely appreciate that. Just off topic, and then I'll get back to that topic really quickly. I assume you're tapping Rue Boyles, who presumably has several corporations in town, including aerospace corporations, who are very much involved in AI at this point.
I think we've reached out to him. I don't know that I haven't gotten anything from him, so it might take another follow-up.
Redondo's got aerospace too, so maybe they know. And I don't know how much in the aerospace space they want to share what they're doing on AI. Some of it's probably confidential, but there may be sponsorship and some information to be gleaned there. But on the piece about deepfakes, I was at the winter meeting of the U.S. Conference of Mayors last week, where I spent a lot of time with Mayor Chen from Torrance and Mayor Franklin from Manhattan Beach. One of the items on the agenda was a mayor's only meeting, so there's just no press, on what we can expect in the 2024 election with respect to how AI is going to influence and amplify the misinformation and disinformation, which we've seen. And it was sobering, to say the least. There was a woman from Georgetown Law School, and then a gentleman from the FBI, and a gentleman from CISA. I can't remember what that means, but it's a cybersecurity agency in the federal government. And they were talking about the example that we just heard about in New Hampshire, where a robocall went out, AI generated, sounds just like President Biden saying, election day has been changed, no need to show up for the polls on election day, or something like that. And so they're anticipating stuff like that to try to suppress the vote. And the recommendations were straightforward. They said, regionally, we need to coordinate to do two things. One is inform voters about where they can report disinformation and misinformation or efforts to intimidate or suppress the vote. And the second was where they can go for accurate information about the election. So if they get a robocall like that, oh, because it's raining out or whatever the case may be, they're going to be come back next Tuesday, they can go and find out that, no, that's not in fact the case. The election is in fact going forward. That's what I was talking to Jackie about and Cedric about.
And it feels to me that AI will be a topic that we probably want to talk about for the future. I think this year's GA will just touch on it. There's so many things that we could talk about. I would hope that this is the beginning of a conversation for our cities and not just a one-off.
Next on, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Next would be legislative advocacy. And I'll start by saying we have sent a letter to our legislators, which of course is probably very Pollyannish of us with the state budget the way it is. But we asked our state legislators for money for the local travel network to actually talk about micromobility, educational money, because our metro doesn't fund that kind of thing. So we wanted to get that done. And also we asked for two different homeless initiatives, one being alternative crisis response and the other being functional zero, which Brownson can talk to you more about, but the idea is that we wouldn't have more people becoming homeless than are being so we'll probably set up some meetings with legislators and talk to them about those and also other initiatives of but we did ask them for that. And then the other I had asked Barry and John if they would tell us if there's anything they want to report on the Contract Cities Conference, because I know both of them went to that.
Yeah, I did too. You want to go first, Barry, or you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So it was just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we were up with the Contract Cities in Sacramento. It was basically Monday and Tuesday, and you were there.
Yes, I was.
And you probably know more.
I was sitting next to you.
You were. Yeah. It would be a great
It
would be a great opportunity probably for cities to get to know each other, but of course we all clump like cat, you know what? And we basically all sit together because we all know each other, but it would probably be a good opportunity for us to go meet some new people, but we don't.
Well, they were telling us to sit in our region at one point. Remember that? Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we're following directions then. Okay.
I say.
So anyhow, I think so. The big topic really was crime. We we're talking. There was actually a press conference that they had, and Assembly Member Elmer Succi was there as one of the speakers. And I'm sorry, who was the other?
Chavez.
Thank you. And he was the one that actually.
He's the head of the select committee for the retail theft.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, they had a press conference with retail theft, and I think that was well timed. There's also, they were talking about there's a change in the public safety committee, where typically a lot of these votes were kind of 6-2, which were kind of more pro victim than they were pro criminal versus victims, and so it's kind of been changed. There's a little more hope that some of these laws will become a little tougher on crime. Certainly where people have this $950 maximum, or that they're stuck and they have they're like, what's the change again for the
Prop 47?
Prop 47. They're trying to at least carve out a little bit of it to where if you have multiple times, at least you
aggregation of amounts.
Yeah. Because right now you don't have that, so you can just really steal less than $950 and nothing happens. And they're trying to at least get it to where if you have 2 or 3 times, you finally get something, the book thrown at you. So there's a tiny bit of hope. And I think from my perspective, I felt that there seemed to be a good sense that kind of the partisanship got thrown out. Like the previous years, you kind of felt it was a little more partisan, but this year I felt like there was a kind of a renewed sense of working together, certainly on crime. Of course, they were all talking, at that time, it was a $68 billion deficit. And I guess it ended up being 38 billion. So a lot of the discussion was all about, don't think that you're going to get funded for anything this year because we have a huge deficit and we got to tighten our belts. And so there seemed to be a real seriousness about that as well. So that's kind of what I got out of it. I spent part of the time, our city went and visited with our representatives to talk about our landslide issue. So I know this group doesn't necessarily care about that, but I think it was a good opportunity for all of us to go up and meet with our legislators because they're just starting up for the year. And so we kind of get an idea of where they're trying to head. So Barry, why don't you fill in all the gaps that I missed?
Well, I'm sure between us, we could go on quite a while, but a couple of things that came up I thought were particularly interesting was we had folks there from the housing side from the state giving their perspective on it. And the scary thing to me, truly someone can be concerned about, was the fact they had 16 inspectors at HCD, Housing Community Development, and 9 of them, of their seniors, left last year out of 16. Yep. So you have the basic problem that there's literally no one to do the work, and for most of our communities, so they're just kind of doing things on a hurry up, and their hurry up answer is no. So that I thought that was, but I mean, it makes sense because they're not going to get in trouble for having told somebody no. They can come back and appeal it, as opposed to if they say yes, and they say, oh crud, now what did we allow? It's not a good thing, but it's understandable. So anyway, that's something to be addressed. And another one that was really interesting was the discussion on the new campaign contribution limits. And boy, was that ugly. Because it just flat out doesn't make sense. And it's based on a number that was set, what, in the 80s? Is that right? Anyway, I don't remember. Somebody mentioned it, but they said the basic issue was, well, we had these hearings and nobody showed up to say otherwise. Oh, I'm sorry, but my psychic powers weren't operating that day for me to know this is an issue. The league didn't know about it. Contract cities didn't know about it. You know, none of our consultants knew about it. And so, yeah, you had a merry little time with it. And then you came up with something that is absolutely unworkable and is actually causing less clarity rather than more. Because now what's the answer? Well, set up a PAC. And then nobody will know where the money came from, and it just washes your hands at all. Is it ethical? Absolutely not. Is it legal? Absolutely. So, and is it what we're going to have to do in a community where you have to raise more money than you do in Lomita with our, now that we have districts? I pity you. I do not know how you're, Cedric, I don't know how you're going to do it next time you're up. You know,
I'm up now.
It is going to be, oh, that's right. You're up this time. Sorry. It's really going to be hard to get things done. So anyway, those are a couple of things.
Yeah, it's $250. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't want to, take up, a lot of time, but it was very fruitful. I thought they ended up getting quite a few diverse legislators, not even just ones from LA County, but other places. And they all seem to be more open, like, well, the proof is in the pudding, whether they're going to see some action behind those words. But it at least seemed that they were more open and wanting to hear from us and coming down to the meeting, which is more than I'd seen. Usually when I went was a few years ago, we had to go to them and hunt them down in the offices. And then they are all just showing up and coming and giving. So there were like 15 or between 50 and 20 over that came. So that was quite a bit. And there does seem to be more of an open door for public safety, which quite frankly, since we're going to have our strike team for public safety well, we had it today at 3 p.m. Then tomorrow is housing and homelessness for the strike team for the LA County division. So we're going to strike while the iron is hot, figuring that this is the time when the governor's thinking of presidential aspirations. So he's the most open to change at this point. But he's not willing to amend Prop 47 yet. But that's a little pushback we have to do, because some of that stuff needs to be put on the ballot to make some real headway on the retail theft. But we're going to be doing retail theft is going to be one of the focus of the March 7th meeting for the league. So put that down on your calendar to attend, because it March 7th. We're going to have a member from the Little Hoover Commission, which has been delegated or tasked with looking at retail theft and making recommendations to the legislature. And then I'm also working on trying to get the joint task force which is the sheriffs, LAPD, CHP, that have a special task force on organized crime theft that will make a presentation.
So the other thing that came up was lack of insurance in high fire risk areas. And I was going to ask you, being in one area like that, whether the league is supporting any kind of legislation or knows of any legislation that would make it more available to us in those areas who have been told that either we can't write you a policy or stick with the one you have, you're lucky to have it.
Well, it was brought up at the public safety meeting for the policy committee for the league about the issue of insurance. So hopefully there'll be a bill that will address that, or it's actually write one, Debbie, and then present it.
I mean, this is an issue to all of us.
Right. Yeah.
Even if you live in Gardena, this is impacting you as much as somebody living in the hillside with, where they're on the edge of the interface there, the urban interface. Because as the insurance company commissioner explained, what's happening in Florida and Hawaii and Washington State is impacting us in our rates. And everybody knows that the insurance rates, particularly for fire loss, are just going through the roof. And I'd say skyrocketing, but we don't want skyrockets. So it's a serious issue though, and it's going to get considerably worse before it gets better. I have a cabin in the mountains, and some of my neighbors who are not well-to-do people, that's their only residence. And, they're now paying, instead of paying $600 a year like they were now a couple of years ago, now it's $4,500 a year. So they're spending like $400 a month on insurance. And with that, they're part of the state plan now. Their deductible has shot up, and it's really ugly. And it's just going to get worse if we don't take more actions now to address that. So anyway, it was kind of a side issue, but it was one that we saw a lot of people snap their heads on that.
Let's move along because it's getting late.
Yes.
It's getting late.
We only have a few more reports. Ronson has one slide filled with a lot of information.
Yeah, just one slide.
You want to put the slide up? Okay, that's the one. Okay, this is the slide.
Yeah, so we've been shaking some trees to get some more dollars. One is health insurance companies that are getting a lot of state dollars for Medi-Cal for homelessness. And so we've been asking them to fund case management work throughout the South Bay City, taking that tree. And what kind of came out of it was kind of surprising. We're still asking for that, but they immediately wanted to fund the Redondo Beach pallet shelter expansion and alternative crisis response plan. So we were able to get $1.3 million for that, which is great. Worked closely with Councilmember A.H. Jervik on that one. And next up on the local solutions.
And I should say that the woman was really excited. And if you haven't been, she went to homeless court and saw the kinds of things that are done there, and then went to the pallet shelters. And Ronson should be commended for going to Health Net and shaking that tree.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ronson.
Shake some more trees.
Health kind of sells itself, and like she immediately wanted to fund it right there. So the local solutions fund, $2.1 million is what we're getting for the fiscal year 24-25. We're getting about the same amount as last year. It's kind of based off our homeless counts. Our incorporated cities in the South Bay are more or less flat year over year. And so our funding is flat year over year. I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Most of the funding will go towards continuous successful programs such as climate aid, shared housing, Hawthorne case management, and all the other things that we're funding. But we do also want to hear some new ideas. And so we sent out an email to the task force and your city's homelessness staff to see if there's any opportunities for other projects to fund. There probably won't be a lot of extra money, but we can always shake other trees to fund new projects. So
if you have some ideas for your city, please let Ronson know now. Now's the time.
And then our PATH contract for street case management is ending. There are some cities that are affected by this because they don't necessarily have case management themselves. Carson has a street outreach team, but they don't have case management. And so they rely on PATH for that. That's one example. And so that contract is ending. And so we will have some gaps in services, but we are currently working with the county to draft a new contract with St. Margaret Center and a new provider called WLCAC. They're really good. Tim McCoskey knows them really well. I speak on their behalf. So they will be the new providers, and we're hoping to go live with that by March or April this year.
And we should say that we're getting that funding due to the good offices of Supervisor Mitchell and Supervisor Hahn.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for the supervisors. This is actually, and it's important to know that this funding is actually also going to go and cover the large unincorporated areas of our South Bay. So that is much needed as well. And the COG will be monitoring the unincorporated areas really closely going forward as well, because we're all affected by our regional issues. And then we had a homeless count last night. There were the usual glitches, but I mean, overall it went pretty smoothly. We're the second night. The first night had it worse, and so, but like Keenan here, he did not get deployed till 11:45 at night, and did not make it back to the deployment site till 1 in the morning. So yeah, we're both zombies today, but we're happy to be here. And more than likely, there will not release the city level data again this year. We did present to the city managers a CityNet proposal to do a more detailed census, much like what Redondo Beach does every year, that provides demographic information. We were calling that as part of our functional zero project, because we think that if we can get a more detailed census and by names list, we can really cut down on number of homelessness, or at least have an idea of what's needed to cut down on homelessness, so that we can achieve functional zero street homelessness in your city. And so that's what Jackie was alluding to when we presented some budget funding for that to the assembly members to get funding for that census.
Do you want to go on and talk about that? We had a fabulous senior services meeting. They brought really great people to the table.
Yeah, we're trying to target loneliness and providing help for seniors who feel isolated. A lot of this work kind of came out of the pandemic too, but we had a great presentation from the Motion Picture and Television Fund. If you're not familiar, they're a nonprofit arm that's been around for over 100 years. Because like the motion picture industry and television industry is not just celebrities and really wealthy people. It's also the workers, right? The blue collar workers, and they don't have a nest egg necessarily. And so the Motion Picture Television Fund has been that support for that community, and they do have a social isolation project. And so we got a great presentation from them, as well as some others in that field. And we're looking to do a social isolation project with a partner, potentially with Brett's old nonprofit, Help for Seniors, sometime this year.
Thank you. I think Jim Butts was going to give us the Metro report, but I see Mike Bulky. Mike, can you give us a brief report of what happened at Metro today?
Can I just add to the homeless discussion?
Of course.
For what it's worth, at the Conference of Mayors, Mayor Bass chaired a panel, and it was all about homelessness. And she's planning a lobbying trip to Congress April 30th to, I think, May 2nd, and is recruiting as many mayors as she can get. They're apparently asking for three things. One is more money for vouchers, or more vouchers from HUD. Something about expanding the folks who will accept vouchers, something like that, and then something related to veterans. I don't know if that's of any interest to us in the South Bay, but that opportunity is out there, and she's actively seeking folks to come along to the Capitol to do that lobbying of Congress to try to shake loose more funding.
If you, if Mayor Bass and the city of LA doesn't really communicate with COGs, they communicate with cities. So if you get something like that, please let me know, because maybe it's something that Ronson or one of his staff should be involved with, So, but we probably will not be knowing about it.
Right. Well, now you know as much as I know about it.
Okay, but I mean, we actually get some kind of formal thing that she's going to invite cities. Yeah.
Now you know, I know.
Mike, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The Metro meeting had a relatively short agenda, but it went on a very long time.
Funny how that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Like deja vu.
I think you can identify, but the two issues that were really the most salient today were the briefing on the budget preparation process. Bottom line is that Metro faces at this point a $1.5 billion budget deficit and an ongoing 3-year shortfall of projections of funding. The board will have a budget retreat on March 29th to explore difficult information in anticipation of difficult decisions ahead. The fare box recovery is a good example at approximately 5%, which is about 40% less than it was pre-COVID revenue. While Measure R and Measure M provide unique revenue sources for Metro, they're not a panacea, and Metro is running out of funding opportunities in terms of closing gaps on a variety of projects, and also the operations funding deficit. Meanwhile, the board had a very robust discussion regarding the Transit Community Public Safety Department and the implementation progress report. Metro has engaged a team of consultants with expertise in public safety, law enforcement services, and deployment in transit settings. Emerging themes from the research and interviews emphasize the need for an implementation plan, which under Mayor Butts' request, they changed it to implementation proposal, which put a whole kind of different light on the report. That focuses on principles and practices of social work and mental health skills into the new department to enhance community engagement, improve relationships, and address underlying social issues. Mayor Butts and Supervisor Hahn and others expressed a discomfort with them bringing forward what they want to do is bring forward a plan. And that's why Mayor Butts brought up that they needed to change it to a proposal so that there was removing the fait accompli aspect of what they're studying so that the board has more, can approach it as a proposal. But there was a lot of discussion among the board members on what they're looking for in such a proposal. But that pretty much wraps up the salient issues for Metro.
Sure.
Yes.
This is not an agendized topic, but I just was wondering, Mike, just hypothetically, if there might be a bit of a budget deficit at Metro, how that might impact, I don't know, expansions of the Metro, perhaps in the South Bay?
I'll give you a global answer. That's
Perfect.
why they're having the budget workshop to discuss the wide variety of fiscal problems that Metro is facing.
Every rail line they open, they go further into debt.
Understood. So we won't. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So, I'll just keep going. The local travel network, we're meeting with Carson, Lomita, Redondo Beach today we met with, and we talked to El Segundo about how the pilot's going. Pilot seems to be going well. People are noticing the turtle signs up and no adverse reactions. So he had nothing bad to say about it. And we're going to be working more with some of the chamber and the business community. We want to talk about the hotels and how you can, like, maybe they would like a neighborhood electric vehicle that people could check out to get to the beach in El Segundo and one of those things. So we're trying to do some commercial ideas with their staff. So we had a really good meeting, and something else I'm missing, but well, I'll tell you next month. But so those are the cities we're working with, and we're hoping that we can move forward. Redondo is talking about where they're going to be starting their implementation, and then we're doing route refinement in these other cities.
Was it the Caltrans grant maybe?
The Caltrans grant? Oh, we submitted, I don't know, we submitted a Caltrans grant for the local travel network. And that the purpose of that grant, which we won't hear about, and probably there's no money anyway, but we submitted this grant to fill in the gaps. For example, you can't get from Carson to right now to San Pedro. You can't get from El Segundo out. You can't get those places. So the grant is to look at those gaps. The last thing that I wanted to mention, I think, besides announcements, is Kim is going to talk. Kim has been ill. She hasn't been here, so we asked her to stay up all night and get sick again. Kim, do you want to tell us about the?
Sure. I wanted to first remind everybody that Jackie has sent a notice out to all the elected officials inviting you to attend our Alta C Go See trip. We're doing a Go See trip to that location with all of our partners. We invited our partners so they can learn about the South Bay and the different kinds of things that are offered there. You know,
we have about 6 or 7 that have already RSVP'd. So please let me know if you can go.
And just if you're not familiar with that, it's an incubator that focuses on the blue economy. It's fascinating. I think it's really interesting. I hope you guys all attend. That's on February 14th. It's on Valentine's Day. Also, we had our first award ceremony. Thank you very much, Mayor Hicks, for being our MC for that day. We had outstanding attendance. Everybody loved it. We got all kinds of press over it. And we went to one city, went to the city of Carson and actually presented the award there at their city council. And so we're available to do that for other cities if you would like. But that was for our energy efficiency and sustainability efforts at the city level. And then I wanted to let you know that our Green Business Assist program, so we do outreach to all the businesses in the South Bay, and we have almost 400 businesses in that. It's like a little membership, right? And we're giving out information every quarter to them in a newsletter about all of the different kinds of programs that they can be involved with: energy efficiency, incentives, awards, water saving devices, all of those kinds of things. And that list is very active. So if you're having any information that you want to get out from your city to specifically the business network, we would love to share that information as well. I know you have your own systems, but this is a self-identified list of businesses. And I think that's really all I was going to talk about right now, Jackie.
Okay. We did put in a grant for the Peninsula cities for wildfire protection education, and we're hoping to hear about that. And
I'm sorry. One other thing. In our award ceremony, we had a speaker that spoke a lot about cool roofs, cool pavement, and cool walls. And so we are looking and exploring potential funding for those things for cities. We're working with LA County, but we're looking into some other things like maybe the conservancies to see if we can get some funds for those programs.
Okay, I will just finish the last 3 things I want to tell you. We submitted comments on the RTP, that's SCAG SoCal Connect, which are here. Basically, they talked about the fact that SCAG still does not recognize micromobility, and the fact that they only look at it as microtransit, but they don't think about people who can buy a cheaper way of getting around their local community. And so we wanted it more clear in the RTP. Tonight, we're submitting comments after I finish reading them on the digital equity plan. The state has a digital equity plan that they're looking at, and unfortunately, we're doing it like college. We're at deadline. And the state's plan talks about universal service, which means bringing fiber to everybody's home. And we're saying that this is, once again, not a one-size-fits-all. Bringing fiber to neighborhoods and communities is a faster, cheaper way of bringing fiber to people, not doing homes, but let's start with bringing it into communities where you can actually educate people. We're finding that even community organizations don't know how to use it. So we could bring it into, like in San Pedro, we're looking at Toberman House. We could bring it into there. They can educate their community. And so when it gets to their home, then the people will know how to use it. And those are the substance of our comments for the fiber project. And then the last thing, 2 more things. March 1st is the legislative meet and greet, I think, at Cal State Dominguez. You'll get flyers about that. But starting February 1st, you're all going to get letters from Natalie And those letters are going to be for the three seats on the Metro Service Council. We do this every year. 3 seats come up and we need people from the incumbents can sign up again, but it's open to anybody in your city that's a real heavy transit user, unincorporated areas or whatever. So those 3 seats are going to come up on February 1st. Nominations will open, and then also appointments to outside agencies. The regional council seat for Drew Boyles and Mark Henderson are up. They can obviously sign up again, but that seat is up. And then there's 2 policy committee seats up at SCAD. So you're going to get all of that information on February 1st. If you're interested in any of this, please watch out for it.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
That's it. Anybody have any upcoming events or announcements?
I just have a question. And first of all, I want to apologize for my tardiness today. I did request a couple of days ago to find out if my delegate was going to be here, but I just got it at 3:40 p.m. that he was planning, but is not coming. So I had to read all the materials, right, real fast. And, but insofar as I did that, and I ended up coming late because I had other things I had to do also, I just wanted to ask, is there any reason why for our independent auditors report, we don't have, like what we have in our city, a real person signing that report? I mean, the way it was written, it was they wrote out some unknown person wrote out the Pun Group LLP, which to me is, we always have an auditor actually sign as their name, so you know which auditor did it. And at least all of our auditors
firm sign off.
Yeah.
Audit letter, the opinion letter.
Yeah, we've always had an actual auditor sign, but and then the other thing was just, I don't know what would the purpose, but they mentioned in the first paragraph of the report that, or I mean, the first page, that there's supposed to be a management's discussion and analysis that is required by GASB, the General Accounting Standards Board, but that wasn't provided, but they've said, oh, we don't think that didn't hinder our ability to render an opinion. I just think we should be providing, if GASB requires it and says that that's an essential part of financial responsibility, or part of financial reporting, then it should be done.
I think it is done. Laura, you're here. Are you listening? I think they do GASB, but they always write these clauses in there to remove themselves from any liability.
So, no, that wasn't that. It was that they did say management has omitted the management's discussion and analysis that accounting principles generally accepted in the United States requires to be presented to supplement the basic financial statements. And then this missing information is required by GASB, who considers it to be an essential part of financial reporting for placing the basic financial statements in appropriate operational, economic, and historical context. So that's what
we're going to have to get. It's way too late for me to figure out.
I'm sorry. I just
no, but we'll get back to you.
Put that in there. And then the other thing is only to ask in terms of when there's steering committee decisions, I would recommend that there not only just be a statement saying go to the website and look for it on the steering committee portion of the website, but actually have a link to that steering committee report where people could go there and just be right in that, where they're to the materials for the steering committee for that particular date. That's not a big deal, rather than just referring people, go to the COG website and search for it under steering committee. So that would be my request, and make it easier for people to, if you're going to do a link, just make it a real effective link as opposed to one.
Staff heard it. Staff heard it from.
Okay.
Any other announcement? Anybody else?
Just a real quick one. Supervisor Hahn's hosting a Veterans Resource Fair a week from today on the 1st of February at the USS Iowa battleship. Okay. And it's from 11 to 1. We'll have a lot of great resources for the veterans, and it's open to all county residents, not just fourth district. So I'd love to send it over to Jackie and the team to distribute. If I could, please.
April 4th through 7th, Guardian of 7, the Wall at Heels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.